Dave Pietro, a versatile saxophonist, composer, and educator, has been a prominent figure in the New York jazz scene since 1987, captivating audiences across more than 30 countries. A member of the Grammy-winning Maria Schneider Orchestra and Grammy-nominated ensembles like the Gil Evans Project and Darcy James Argue Secret Society. Dave's artistry spans collaborations such as Woody Herman and Ray Charles. His 10 albums as a leader, including the critically acclaimed The Talisman and Hypersphere, showcases innovative compositions and collaborations with jazz luminaries. So, Dave, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Been a little while.
Yeah, not that long, only about 15 years, something like that. So Dave, I mean, we met at NYU, which about 15 years ago, or so, and I'm sure much has happened in the last 15 years. I know your position changed at NYU since I was there.
Yeah, I've descended to director of the program.
How did that come to be?
Well, Dave Schroeder pretty much started the position. I mean,
Right.
actually, Tom Boris was the director for a long time back in the '90s. That's when I got started here. I went back in my mid 30s in 1998 and I put myself through school part time doing shows and playing on the road and all that. Um, and Dave was a professor at that time. Tom Boris was the director, and then Tom passed. And when Tom passed, Dave Schroeder became the director. And then I started here full time, and right around the time that I think I was adjunct when you first started, and then
Yeah, 2000, around 2009. Yeah.
right. So fall of 2010 is when I started full time here. So you were there right at I was adjunct, I think, when you were first there, and then I had become full time when you had left. But and then Dave became the chair of the whole department. I think in 2018 or 19, and then that's when I became the director, and so this is my, I think, fifth year as director.
It's such a amazing task to hold that position. It's really, it's something all jazz musicians probably going to school saying, "Oh, I could see myself being the director." It's a privileged position, and you must be really grateful for it. And on top of that, doing all the gigs you do and everything. Is it kind of like two separate worlds that like when
It
you
is
leave?
completely too, yeah, yeah. It's well, I mean, my personal journey in all of this is that I was a music ed major at North Texas, so I was kind of an anomaly. I played in the 1 o'clock jazz band. I did all the jazz stuff, but I was also a music ed major. And I think even as a young 20-something person, I knew that teaching was something that I wasn't really interested in, because they're very different disciplines, as you know. I mean, there are a lot of great players who don't teach well, and there are a lot of great teachers who aren't the best players, and then there are people who do both, and all the grades that are in between. It's a completely different discipline, and then, quite frankly, the administrative part of things when you become director is another whole discipline. But teaching has always been an important thing to me. So I sort of naturally, I think, gravitated towards. I was doing adjunct teaching jobs at NYU and at Hofstra while I was playing, and now that I'm director, it's a lot more administrative stuff. It's like the higher up you go, actually, the less it has to do with teaching, the less it has to do with music, and the less it has to do with teaching. It has to do, with a more administrative.
But you know what though? You're still
But
you're still active, and playing, and
yeah,
that's the beautiful part of it.
well, that's how I tell people.
That's how you maintain your sanity, right?
Well, I tell people on my gravestone, it's not going to say Dave Pietro, Director of Jazz Studies. It's going to say Dave Pietro, saxophonist. And I think that's important when you have any job and many people do have jobs that are you need to either supplement your performance or because it's a great opportunity and it's time to take it. But you can't ever lose sight of what makes you tick and what makes you happy and what keeps you creative. So sometimes, I mean, I'll be doing administrative stuff and I'll start to feel that and I'll put it aside and I'll just start writing or composing. or
Yeah.
I'll go practice, or I'll do, so I know that and that's something we all need. I mean, it's like there's no sane reason, as I tell, when I'm advising students, there's no sane reason to become a professional musician. It's like it's something you have to do in order to be happy and feel fulfilled and be complete.
Well, let me ask you that because to a lot of people go into the music school program when they're younger and say I'm going to do this, and then maybe midway through something changes. Oh, this is not for me. And then maybe after they do it for a couple years and they say, I want to do something else. But there has to be something that started it. What's the catalyst for you, that's kept you, you have to be self-assured when you're that young. Like, what was it about the music itself? Was it the playing? Was it the music just hit you a certain way, you think?
I just think it's a passion, for the people that I know, and I know you probably know many others as well, who are crazy enough to stay in the business. It's it's because this is what you have to do. I mean, the way look, when I'm advising students, okay, and and I've advised many students in all the years I've been teaching. And they're like, I don't know, they think they want to be a musician, but then they're like, I don't know if I want to do it. And I always say, look, no matter what you choose to do in life, no one can ever take music away from you. So in other words, if you choose not to be a music major and do something else, you always have music. The difference is you don't have the pressure to make a living at music, which is becoming increasingly harder. If you're going to do it, it's because, okay, this is what I have to do with my life, and now I have to figure out a way to make a living at it. That's what it is. It's because it's almost like it's a passion, and it's a destiny that it's like, oh, this is what I have to do. My father had a very successful. He's retired now. He had a very successful electronic engineering business. As the oldest son, I was supposed to go follow in his footsteps and work for him, and I'd have a much bigger house and a lot more money in the bank, but all I could think about was music, music, music. So I abdicated to my younger brother, who's 2 years younger than he, has the nice house and put two kids through college and all that kind of stuff. So, I think it's a calling. I think that's why people who do this for a living, it's because it's a calling. It's something. It's just what you have to do, and then it's a matter of like, okay, how can I make a living at this? What do I need to do?
Yeah, and let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Um, I listed some of the things you've done, but you've also done things like I know you've subbed on Broadway shows, that sort of
Mhm.
thing. Obviously the music is, playing is always pleasurable. And I know you're so passionate about it, but you're also into so many types of music, Brazilian music, that sort of thing. When you're on certain gigs like that, let's say, does
Yeah.
it feel like this is just a job right now? So even because
Yeah,
even though you're playing?
sometimes. Like I mean, I've done over, I don't know, 30 or so Broadway shows. I played, that's how I put myself through NYU. I was working Broadway shows, and I was making a pretty good living. Um, I mean, I love any kind of music. I used to play a lot of club dates out in Long Island when I first got to town. But for me, if something is new and I'm learning something, then I'm excited. It doesn't matter what the style of music is. It doesn't matter what, I'm like for example, when I was on Broadway, I was playing a lot of flute and clarinet. So I was really challenging myself on my secondary instruments. And I remember playing Annie, the show Annie, but I had like solo flute stuff. And I just loved the challenge of that, having to execute really well on my instruments. And I wouldn't be the doubler I am today if I didn't have those experiences. And the conductor's looking at you, waiting for a cue, and you have to come in on a high note on the flute by yourself. You either get it together or you don't.
When
And so
those gigs were over, did you was there still like that calling, like, oh, I wish I could just go out and play? I'm
well,
sure you even did play
here's the
jazz.
thing. Once for me, this is just me, but once for me, the excitement of the newness of it, and now just became sort of rote. Like now, okay, I know I can do this. There's no new challenge. Then all of a sudden, I would turn into, as a friend of mine said, Dark Dave. You know, and I would quickly go from being really excited about something to like, okay, I'm done with this. On to the next thing. And so that's how it's been for me. If it's new and challenging, and I'm learning something, I'm moving forward, then I'm cool. It doesn't really matter the style and all that kind of stuff. But as soon as it becomes rote, and maybe that's the jazz musician in me, as soon as it becomes like, okay, there's no newness, there's no creativity, there's no development, then I get really, actually, I get dark. I get really,
I
upset.
remember
So
you using that term even
I mean,
then.
teaching can be this way. It's like you teach a certain class and you hit the wall. So, and I just think that's part. I mean, I think most people are like this to some degree. And although some people like routine, my dad likes routine. He's a very routine person. I think he likes routine more, and my brother too. So that's why he was sort of better fit for that. Um, but I think those of us who need to have more creativity is just part of what makes us tick. Then that's an important element. So it's not so much what the material is or what the situation is, it's my relationship to it at that time. If it's something that I've done a million times and I'm bored with it, then that's not good for. But if it's
Absolutely.
something that then I feel challenged and excited about, then it's cool.
Um, I primarily know you as an alto player, but obviously
Yeah.
you play all these other instruments and everything. And was kind of curious with such a vast history of all these legends. I don't have to start naming alto saxophonists, but how did you find your voice in a music that has so much history? Was it the composition that you do? Like, what could you talk
Well,
about
I
a little
mean,
bit?
I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, it's like how do you get to a point in your life where you're more comfortable in your own shoes, in your own skin. I mean, it comes from living life and learning about yourself and learning about the world. And as far as finding, my own sound, I mean, it came from living life and just playing music and playing all these different styles and studying all these different great musicians. I mean, I can remember when I was younger, I would put on Cannonball recordings, and try to sound like Cannonball, and then I would put on Bird and try to sound like Bird, or Paul Desmond and try to sound like Paul Desmond, or Ornette and try to sound like Ornette. And in each of those, trying to emulate those sounds and those concepts, I started putting together like, oh wow, I have to physically do this to make that sound or do. And so, I think it was Clark Terry who said that the three stages of a musician are imitation, assimilation, innovation. So a lot of when you're younger is just imitating things. That's how you start. That's how we learn to speak. You just start imitating your parents and your siblings, um, and then you start assimilating all of these influences into your own. Uh, it's a little of this, like you're making your own dish with all of these ingredients and all these recipes you've done before, but now you're kind of putting your own take on it. And then there are the very few artists who go to the third step and actually create a whole new language with it, like Bird and Miles and people of that nature.
I think it can still be done no matter what instrument.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's it just from sort of following that path. I think it's like, how do you come to your personality? It's like, well, you have all these influences. First of all, you have your DNA, and then you have all these influences of how you grew up, and then all your experiences in life, and that kind of shapes how you are, at any point in time, and that can change too. I mean, you can have a slightly different sound or concept 10 years from now because you've gone through some other evolution.
Definitely. And I like to also ask certain people this question, who you're a true jazz musician, you're a true musician, a true artist. You're a generous person, even personally. I remember at NYU, like the first semester they put me in this ensemble. I won't mention who it was with, but it was with a bunch of people who, like, they were all friends, and they used to, like, as you said, want to drop acid and play free. And and then you were like, no, you stay here. You're paying to go here. And it takes a certain type of person to do that. Someone, who's very, very generous. And you probably have to unlearn some things to grow as a musician too. Was there something you had to let go of personally or musically in order to?
Oh man, as Joseph Campbell, the great writer and professor, said in his series with Bill Moyers called "The Power of Myth." Check this out. This is a deep thing. Life is about letting go of everything you love.
Oh,
So
well,
it's all about, no, it's about letting go. It is about letting go. How can you, we all carry our expectations, and we all carry our baggage, we all carry our opinions and all of that. And I think about this in playing jazz particularly, and this is one of the many things I just love about this music, is that to really participate with you have to let all of that go and just be present and be listening and be non-judgmental. One of my, probably if I had to say one, I have one favorite musician in the world, which is very hard to say, it would be Wayne Shorter. And I have Wayne Shorter went to NYU, as I think you know, and I've been doing the Wayne Shorter Ensemble here for
I know I was in that ensemble.
and oh yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
exactly. You're part of the legacy, the NYU Wayne
And
Shorter
you introduced
Ensemble.
us to all those, these other, that whole other freer side of Wayne, which I hadn't
Yeah,
even been exposed to
yeah,
at that point yet. I just kind of knew,
right.
like, Speak No Evil and stuff. So it was really
So
cool.
just check this out. So since I started the ensemble, up to 150 of his compositions we've done with the ensemble.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm having to transcribe stuff by ear now. My goal is to do 200 with the group before retiring. So,
Have you guys done Joyrider?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
All right, good. Yeah,
and a few
that's
things off
great.
that album too. Yeah, we just played the Blue Note actually on Saturday. We did a Blue Note brunch with the group.
Well,
But Wayne, I bring up Wayne because to answer your earlier point, to bring up Wayne, I brought up Wayne to there's a picture, if you watch Wayne playing with, especially a band like Weather Report online, there are times where he goes to play a note, he goes to play something, and then he yanks the horn away from it, like the idea he had in his head is because something happened is no longer valid. And I brought him up to as explain the anecdote of being so in the moment that you do something like that. Like the thing you thought was relative, like in a conversation, the thing that you thought was relative to say is no longer relative to say. No, a lot of people will hang on to that and throw it into the conversation, and everyone's like, we've kind of moved on from that. But and then there's those like they just let it go and like stay with the conversation, stay in the moment. And I think that's the big challenge of well, it's that challenge of happiness, but it's the challenge of playing this music, and so it's a meditation is how I look at it.
Well, I think you're totally right. I mean, like, there's about letting go, and it's life is a journey, and everyone has their circumstances that they're brought up with,
Right,
and then you put that with someone who's their brain is not even done developing until age 25. They're in
right.
school, and then it's even harder then, and more confusing. But like, at least for me, like, it's been, in order for me to let go, I finally feel like I've let go of a lot this year, of
Yeah.
a lot of comparing, and it took 20 years and
Yes.
decades.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's the thing. Unfortunately, it's I'm not a big fan. That's why I'm not. I mean, I'm all for people getting recognition, but I'm just not a big fan of like the polls and all this kind of stuff because particularly with it being amplified with social media, I just think it certain people make certain people feel good and other people feel bad, and yeah, you want to recognize people who are successful, but I don't know. I mean,
are you
I
talking
just
about the, like, the downbeat, like when they have the
yeah, with the
numbers?
poll, yeah,
I
and the
don't even know what
numbers,
that means. I mean, like, I'm
yeah,
kind of
yeah, and
confused.
rating, 5 stars. I mean, I know we need to talk about stuff and sort of have a comparative thing, but I don't. There's a whole part of it that I think is, uh, I think the people who are really, Miles and these people, they didn't really care about that stuff. They're just into making the music.
Yeah, definitely. I
But
mean,
but so I think this is a challenge. I'll just say this: this is a challenge for anybody in this business. Is to it's nice to get the recognition, obviously, and it's important too. But I think everyone has to remember it's they have to be clear with themselves about their contribution and not get too down about it, and stay present.
Definitely. I mean, improv, this is kind of, letting go is kind of like a spiritual thing in a sense, at least. I don't know, maybe, you might feel a little bit different, but like, I always kind of think improvisation can have these aspects of being spiritual, like maybe letting go, the emotion, and then the technical side of things. Um, it, when it comes to when you improvise,
Yeah.
is it almost like the music comes through you, or
Yes. Yes. Bach talked about that. He didn't write a note of music. He said God wrote the music. It is that sort of thing of channeling. But here's an important distinction I think that needs to be made, is that when I'm practicing, I'm very judgmental, and I'm very like I'm in the moment, but like I'm clear about what my goals are, and so it's an environment in which I am being critical, in which I do have a specific thing that I'm going for. I'm not just like letting it move through me. I'm like, no, I need to play this more evenly. I need to, get this more in tune. So in that sense, I mean, and this gets back to sort of one thing I talk about in my class, my colloquy class, is this business of the left brain, right brain thing, for which I know is an oversimplification of things, but it's sort of conscious, unconscious. So what I talk about a lot is there are things in life where, like practicing is one of them, where there's a lot of consciousness involved. Driving a car, whatever. You have to be processing things and be thinking and be critical about making decisions and all that sort of business. So there's a place for that, an important place for that in life. But then when it comes to playing the music, or maybe having a conversation, or just doing things on a more creative, that's more of an unconscious effort, and that's where the letting go and the channeling comes in. So it's not like it needs to be all one of the. I mean, I think there's a place for each of those, and we have to be clear with ourselves about when are we being. We're not necessarily channeling, but we're working towards a goal. We're being critical about stuff in a
at
more
this point,
conscious way.
I'm sorry, but is at this point in your career, when you're playing a gig and improvising, if you
Yeah.
like, because you've been doing it for such a long time, and
Yeah.
like, let's say like you see someone like you look up to in the audience or something, like, are you able to just like, oh, you see them for a second and get back into it, or it can like still
I
come?
don't. I close my eyes. I don't. I don't look to see who's there.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. When I'm playing, if I'm improvising in my band, I'm trying to listen to Gary Versace and every note that he's playing on the piano. I'm trying to
Wow.
listen to. Well, I just played with Adam Cruz and Jay Anderson, Scott Wentholt at Smalls on Thursday, and so I'm just trying to listen to every note Jay plays. I'm trying to hear, and it's almost to the point where I am not even aware of what I'm playing. I'm listening, like my consciousness, if it's is actually listening, and my unconscious part of me is playing something coming out of the horn, not even know what it is.
Wow. I mean, do you have to
You
meditate?
have to practice a long time to
To
get to that
practice.
point. Yeah.
But before you go to play, do you give yourself like, is there a certain mantra you might say, or maybe you
No,
might?
no, be present. Yeah, just be present. That's all. Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but it is
Of
the truth.
course. But it's like with anything else, and you never get there. As the Dalai Lama once said, the mind is a garden which must be weeded every day. And so it's like that. The more you do something, the more you go to the garden and cure for and care for it, the better shape and the quicker you're going to be able to get to what you want to get to, because you're already in that state. And if it's been a while since I've played, and I do something, then it's like, oh my, I feel like it's like going to the garden and there's weeds everywhere, and you got to like clean it up and then get back to that place. And then it's a constant, challenge in that way. But that when you understand that, look, this is just a process, and so now I don't freak out if I'm playing and it's my hands feel like crap. It's like, okay, I haven't played in a while. I just need to work through this. Instead of like, I don't have any technique, I can't play. This, which what a lot of people do. It's like, just move through it. And understand that this is just the process.
Do you like you're saying move through it? Like, is that like sitting in it?
Negativity. Move through like don't discard the negativity like the weeds in the garden. Just work through them. In other words, weed them. Like just do what it needs.
So almost force yourself through instead of sitting in it.
I remember when I was just talking to a student about this the other day. They were talking about nervousness. And she said she gets nervous sometimes, and I said, well, I used to get nervous a lot when I was in college and teenager, early 20s. And then I came to understanding that, it's just energy. Nervousness is, and we need energy, right? So it's just it's not a matter, because if you look at nervousness like, okay, this is an other force that is negative to me, right? Then you all of a sudden have this conflict. But if you have this relationship with nervousness or any other negative thing and realize, look, this is just energy that's in a negative form. If I can transform that energy to something positive, then I can bring it in.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different way. And so this is the whole thing. I go, sometimes when I'm having these blocks, which I still do, then one great thing about being older is you learn how to move through things better.
You still look the same to me.
I just turned 60, so.
Really?
Yeah, I'll be 61 in February.
Wow, you were 45 when we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you really haven't aged. Really, I don't see it that way. But
Well, no kids and.
Yeah, no kids, exactly.
Yeah. You don't get as many wrinkles over the years.
Well, you have your students that you mentor.
Yeah. Well, I tell people, they say, yeah, don't you miss having kids? I say, yeah, I think I would if I wasn't a teacher, honestly. But as I say, teaching satisfies 90% of my paternal instincts, but I do think, to that point, I do think that I feel grateful because my sister has 2 kids, my brother has 2 kids, and I feel like
you're an uncle.
Yeah, I'm an uncle, which is great. That's the best of both worlds. But no, being, especially at this age, being actively involved in instrumental and pardon the pun, in the lives of young people is really important, and it feels good. I think maybe if I didn't have this job and wasn't so involved in younger people's lives, I might have some regrets about it. But I don't. I've been active in young people's lives for so long that that's been enriching.
No, Dave, I remember the first time I saw you play when I went to NYU at the bar next door, and you played with Ari and Johannes. I was like, this guy's the man. So
that was those guys, man. Playing with those guys, because that was when they were writing their book in like metric modulations, right?
Exactly.
I hadn't studied any of that stuff. And Johannes, I love playing with Johannes because he would like do all this stuff, and he could tell I was lost, right? He could hear, and then he would just go bing, 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 just to kind of let me know like where we were. And then as soon as he heard that I was like back on with the form, then they'd go back and do their crazy
That's
stuff.
so funny. No, Dave, it's such a pleasure to reconnect with you. Where can everyone find your website, all that stuff, and social media?
Just www.davepietro.com. It's currently under construction. I'm redoing it, but it should be up in a few weeks.
And please, for all the young musicians, apply to NYU. It's a great institution, and if Dave is there, it's in the right hands, unquestionably.
Yeah, well, we're really proud of the program here, and have really great teachers, very passionate, and who are doing on the scene right now, doing all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. No, thanks so much, Dave.
All right, Abe. Good to see you.